All right. Hello. We are live and we're just going to wait until everybody signs on. And once we get everybody logged on, then we'll go ahead and get started. So we can talk about the weather. Got a heat wave coming on. Kara, what do you
Yes,
think
we
about
did.
that?
Well, I visited a friend in her front yard yesterday and we sat on chairs 10, 15 feet apart and I got sunburned. So I think if we go outside, even our backyards, I think we have to be careful about sitting in the sun, although we all love it.
Yes.
I didn't even think about it.
Yeah. And I got the little thing that said we've got a heat advisory through May 1st already. So the heat's
It's
coming.
Vegas. It's
Yes.
Vegas. Do we have people signed in?
I don't believe we have anybody signed on. If you are signed in and you can hear Kara and I, can you just type at the bottom of your screen, type a little message, type an emoji, something so we know
Okay,
you hear
hi.
us. I sent a little hi. We'll see if anybody has if anybody is signed on. Oh, okay, we've got someone signed on. All right, welcome, Vicki. We're going to just wait a few minutes, probably about 5 more minutes to give everybody a chance to get logged on. And then once everybody gets logged on, then we'll get started. I don't know if you heard, Vicki, if you heard Kara and I chattering, we were just talking about the weather. Got a heat advisory coming on in the Vegas Valley. So that will kind of change a lot of things we might have been doing. We can talk about a little bit later in the session. And again, if anybody's just logging on, if you just want to go ahead and type on your screen on the bottom right, if you just want to touch an emoji or say that you're here or let us know that you've joined the session, that way we can know that we are live and we can see everybody that's here. Okay, we do. I see. Okay, I can see people now. So we've got a second person joining us, and then we'll get, like I said, we'll get started in just a couple minutes. We'll give everybody a little bit of time to navigate. I know a lot of us are just becoming new to webinars and all the different platforms. There's a million platforms out there. So giving everybody a couple minutes to log on,
Okay,
register.
Vicki, can you see us now?
Can you see us, Vicki?
Okay, good.
Okay. All right. I think Vicki, you needed to open your eyes.
Do we know Vicki well?
Yes. Okay. All right. So I'm going to see who we've got on here. Okay, we've got a few more people on. And there we go. People, 1, 2, 3 people. I can see that I have a couple people signing on.
Good.
And then once we get everybody signed on, we had quite a few people register yesterday. So then we will get going once everybody has it once. Okay, there we go. We've got a good amount of people right now.
And once you sign on and in, could you just in the little bottom right-hand corner say hi or an emoji, whatever you'd like, just so Jessica's the administrator of the website, so she can see everybody. I can't, so I'd like to know who's here.
Yes, so if you have signed on, go ahead and give us a little, there we go. Hi, welcome. Welcome, Margie. And we're just waiting if I think we got a couple other people just so we know you can navigate. So we're going to have an interactive workshop today. So we want to make sure that we know that you can navigate communicating with us. So if you see on the right side of your screen, you should have the ability to send us a message if you just want to give us a hi or touch an emoji, just to let us know that you are with us. And we're going to just wait just one more minute for everybody to get logged on and give everybody a little bit of chance, and then we're going to we're going to get started. So if you are on with us and you can hear us and see us, if you can just give us like a little hi, a little thumbs up on your screen there, and that way we'll know that you're there, and that will be where you can ask us questions or make any comments throughout the presentation. So like I said, we'll go ahead.
And throughout the presentation, we're going to be asking you for some responses so we get an idea of what's going on with you. So not only ask us, but we'd like to hear from you. So anybody else, just sign on and we'll start to get ready.
Okay, so we've had, I see a couple people logged on. I haven't, okay. We had a couple people that might be having some issues, but we'll see if they can get logged on soon. So we'll give them, we'll just kind of get going a little bit. We'll just start with some introductions before we really get going on the material. So welcome. I am Jessica Calarco. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in Henderson, Nevada, in the Green Valley area of Henderson. Kara and I had been having a lot of discussions about what we were experiencing, what our clients have been experiencing during the COVID-19 pandemic. And although we're all in different areas of the life cycle, we noticed that there were a lot of similarities, a lot of some heightened anxiety. And we decided that we would give a workshop, a virtual workshop series to kind of address some of the things that we've been noticing in our lives with our friends and family and our clients. So this will be an interactive webinar, and how you can interact with us. We would welcome questions at any time. Go ahead and just type a question on your screen. You can see on the right side of your screen, there's opportunity for questions and opportunity for comments. So just go ahead and type any questions you have or any comments during the presentation. As you can see, we only see a first name. It's a way to kind of keep you some anonymity there. So we want to be able to keep it private for you. If you can all hear us and if you have any questions or if you can't hear us or having any video issues, go ahead and comment right there. And we look forward to hearing from you. Kara?
Yes, but before that, if you're having some issues and can't get on, why don't you call either Jessica or you call myself and we can help guide you. And my cell phone number is 516-816-1285. I'm going to put it on the screen if you're really having difficulty hooking up with us. Okay, so I'm Kara Green. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, psychotherapist for over 30 years. I started my practice in New York and am now licensed in Nevada and have an office in Green Valley, Henderson. The focus of my practice has been on anxiety, depression, and life cycle stages or issues that people have going through the life cycle: marriage, birth, parenting, bereavement, and any other major life issue. 6 years ago, 6 weeks ago, we were in the middle of our already complicated lives. Although many had heard of the coronavirus, most of us were managing day to day the normal ups and downs, and that was more than enough. So while some of us were hitting strides, others experienced some worry, some concerns over marriage, health, careers. Baseball season and flowers were peeking through, and we were all anticipating spring and looking forward to a lighter time of year. Then the coronavirus disease 2019, or COVID-19 took the rug out from under us. What some originally described as asymptomatic or mild flu morphed into a potentially life-threatening disease, ready to steal the lives of our friends, our parents, our grandparents, our children, and even ourselves. And that's when panic set in, and people began thinking about the worst case scenario. Many of us, I know I certainly did, went out to purchase food. We stockpiled paper goods. Businesses shut down and causing all of us financial worries. As the stock market plummeted, are we going to be hearing some bad news in the future? So now feelings of being out of control seem to grow. We're stuck in our homes with our family. We don't have a regular routine. was struggling to stay both safe and sound. This is an extremely hard time, but there are some steps we can take to improve our personal situations, and that's why Jessica and I are here today. Although we have listed what we're going to discuss in each of the 3 seminars, I want you to understand we're going to touch a little bit on each one in each seminar. So today, our main topic is defining, coping, and minimizing anxiety. Our goals as therapists are to help our clients work through their issues. Many time when people come into therapy, they come in because they want us to fix them. Well, wouldn't that be great if we can do it? But we can't. What we try to do is work with our patients on their issues to help them work through their issues and, quote, fix themselves. Sigmund Freud, the founder of psychotherapy, almost 100 years ago, labeled therapy the talking cure. Certainly, the profession has gone through many new changes, new techniques, new ways of viewing the therapeutic session. But no matter what the technique is called, it always involves talking. The more you talk, guided by a professional, the less your anxiety will cause you that much difficulty, and the higher the likelihood that you will be able to work through your issues. So today we are going to talk, or better said, Jessica and I are going to talk, and you are going to talk through writing. We are, as Jessica said, we're going to be sharing some information from you. We're going to ask some questions. We're going to hope that we will be able to help answer some of your questions and then have an open discussion. So one thing to remember, and you're going to hear this throughout everything Jessica and I say today, is that by identifying and naming your anxiety, it should lessen. So the phrase that we're going to work with today is name it to tame it. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about the ways you can identify what you're feeling. Jessica?
All right. So what I want to overview a little bit is when I see people in my practice, they'll say, "Oh, I don't have anxiety," but they'll identify with stress, right? So what's the difference between anxiety and stress? Well, stress is a normal response our bodies have to change. Those changes can be outside of our control. A layoff or an illness are examples of situations that are out of our control. The less control we have over that situation, the more intense our stress reaction is likely to be. Our bodies are designed to react to stress effectively. You may have heard of the fight or flight response, which is our body's natural response to stress. And this stress response creates physiological changes in order for the body to successfully react to stressful situations. And we start to come into problems when this natural, healthy stress response is activated over a prolonged period of time. That can cause physical and emotional wear and tear on our bodies. Anxiety can be one of the results of this prolonged stress. Stress is not necessarily anxiety, nor does it automatically result in anxiety in all people. Stress and anxiety share a lot of common characteristics, which may account for why they're confused at times. Experiencing occasional anxiety is no cause for concern. Just as stress is a normal part of everyday life, so is a measure of anxiety. We all tend to operate at peak performance under a certain amount of anxiety. But if you experience anxiety that seems unremitting, uncontrollable, and which interferes with your normal functioning, you may be experiencing an anxiety disorder.
Okay, so let's do a little bit of the interactive part of today. Are you currently experiencing anxiety? What I think we'd like to start with was, and please feel free to answer, what does the anxiety feel like for you?
Give everybody an opportunity to kind of put down what you might be experiencing with maybe some heightened anxiety over the past few months. What does anxiety feel like for you? So we have someone says, my chest feels tight and it's hard to breathe sometimes. Someone says they have a feeling of things being unsettled.
I sometimes feel that I worry too much.
Just
Anyone else?
excessive worry.
Right, excessive worrying. Okay, so I'm going to now talk a little bit about these feelings, which are certainly on my list. Crazy dreams. Oh my God, I cannot tell you, Margie, how many people have been telling me that they've been having very, very strange dreams. Nightmarish. Some other things that people are saying, they're feeling agitated, they're restless, they're more fatigued, they're irritable, they have difficulty concentrating. I think Kelly, you said tense muscles. That is very, very common. Trouble falling asleep, staying asleep, and nightmares, irrational fears. So these are all feelings, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But are you currently experiencing more anxiety since the pandemic started and you had to change your lifestyle?
So we kind of defined what that feels like for your body. And then now we want to explore, right, if you're experiencing a different anxiety now because of the change in your lifestyle due to the pandemic, or, changes in, and with changes in lifestyle, right, not being able to go out, not being able maybe to see friends and family, maybe income changes. Here in Vegas, we've had to shut down the strip, which is a huge part of business here. So a lot of people are not working. So are you experiencing anxiety a little bit different now than maybe it would have looked like, in 2019? Margie says, absolutely. And, our perception, right? So we talked a little bit about stress being a response to a situation, and the situation and the way we perceive that situation can impact our bodies, right? Our level of control over the situation determines the impact that our anxiety has on our mental wellness. So this is the pandemic has created this enormous situation that we have very little control over. And we want to explore that a little bit more. And we see Margie said, anger negatively about the political leadership, lack of trust. And then, Vicki saying that it's lessened a little bit compared to the few weeks ago, right? We're kind of getting in, and Kara's going to talk about a little bit, but kind of getting into our routine, right? Getting a little bit used to it. It's not as much of a shock now as maybe it was earlier in March.
And I see that Kelly really has defined a little bit that although she was anxious before, the anxiety has now changed. I think a lot of people, it's more social, and I've spoken to many people who are concerned about how are they going to go about getting out of this situation. How are they going? Are they going to want to go into a restaurant? Well, if we have to wear masks and you go into a restaurant, and I think that's on a lot. Vicki said you're less anxious now than you were a couple of weeks ago, but yet I think as we approach opening up, people might tend to be a little more anxious. So Jessica's going to talk a little now about the difference between feeling alone and feeling lonely, and then we'll get back to talking about anxiety per se.
Yes. Well, I definitely wanted to touch a little bit later on what Kelly was talking about. We definitely want to talk about that and give you guys some strategies to help with these new worries that are cropping up. So alone versus feeling lonely. Alone is a situation and lonely is a feeling. You can be alone, but not lonely. And on the other hand, you can feel lonely even when you're surrounded by people. The main difference between being alone versus lonely is that lonely people are not happy with their situation. You can be alone and very happy, but when you are lonely, you long for a change. And a lot of people have been feeling lonely while being asked to stay at home. Are any of you struggling with feelings of loneliness? Many of us are feeling disconnected. if you're feeling lonely, what has that experience been like for you right now? A little bit kind of on what Kelly was saying, right? Afraid of when people getting close to you, but you know, we are kind of looking at what's that experience like for you. So maybe for Kelly, you might be okay being alone, because you're saying, right, you have anxiety about getting in touch with other people, and so that is a situation for you. But how is that, right? If we are going to continue to be alone, how is that impacting you? Are any of you feeling lonely with it, feeling disconnected from others? I'm happy. Oh wait, here we go. Okay, feeling isolated, right?
Right. And is we're social beings. Most of us have social contact on a regular basis. Is talking on the phone sufficient? Is doing FaceTime with your friends and family? Or some people are really settling in and enjoying the time to themselves to do things they haven't been been able to do. So how is this feeling of alone? Okay, Vicky, thank God for technology. Are people finding that technology is keeping them more connected?
Maybe kind of helping you stay connected with your tribe and your village, versus kind of just sitting at home by yourself. I'm going to leave that walking a lot, okay, and feeling that people are a lot more friendly now. Yeah, hopefully we're all giving each other more grace during this time. Stephanie says, yes, technology helps. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and a little bit about ways that you can, stay connected, right? That's where I want to go. And you guys have really given me a good segue into that. Feelings of loneliness can wear on us over time. And it's like you are carrying a weight around with you. And during this current pandemic, we're being asked to socially distance, but that doesn't mean we need to socially isolate. When a person is feeling lonely, it's often because he or she is focusing on what's lacking from life. And later today, we're going to talk a little bit more about learning to shift your focus. But in addition to learning that skill, you can explore ways to stay connected. So it sounds kind of that's what Margie's going for walks. Stephanie and Vicki are talking about technology. We can stay connected to our family and friends through a variety of activities. There are a lot of apps and computer programs that allow us to stay connected. There's FaceTime, Skype, Zoom, phone calls, texting, Marco Polo, social media like Instagram, Facebook are all examples of ways that we can stay connected with our social network. And I'm really happy to hear it sounds like most of you are using technology to stay connected with the people in your village. Kara?
Okay, so now that we know that many or all of us are experiencing anxiety and dealing with feelings of loneliness or being lonely, being disconnected, although as Jessica just said, you seem to be moving out and getting in touch with people and not feeling as alone and lonely as you could be. Let's figure out now, and this is where the activities to help you feel less anxious come in. It is very helpful and will reduce anxiety if you can explore and normalize your feelings. So one of the things that is very important to do that will really help you is most of our feelings are rooted in some physical manifestation. It can be different from everyone, but there is usually a physical manifestation that accompanies an emotional situation or feeling. So pay attention to those clues and that your body is giving you. Now, for example, Kelly had said that she felt her chest felt tight and was hard to breathe. Well, that is the first feeling that I was going to discuss, and those physical manifestations are really indicative of anxiety or fear. So what you're feeling is normal. I mean, if you're feeling anxious and you're having the physical manifestation of it, they go hand in hand. Stomach tightness or pain sometimes is related to sadness or grief or betrayal. I am working with somebody who all of a sudden has been having some stomach issues. And after talking a little about, we realized these were the same issues that she had when her husband passed away. And so for her, this time alone is reactivating the feeling of being alone and the grief of losing someone. And I should have started with this one, but if your face is, because we all know it, if your face becomes flushed, in all likelihood, you're embarrassed, or then again, you could be very happy. So recognizing these physical responses can cause you to stop, pause, and say, hey, what's going on for me right now? And that, once again, we're going to identify a feeling which will help reduce the anxiety. So the other thing we have to know is to realize, that all feelings are normal. There is never a wrong there's never a wrong feeling. That's just what it is. It is a feeling. It's not an action. The key to an emotionally healthy person is somebody who can feel all their feelings and is really open to feeling. You can feel your anger, you can feel your rage, you can feel your annoyance, you can feel your love, your caring, your feeling of wanting to help. Every one of those is a feeling. And they're not right or wrong because that's what you're feeling. But the key to an emotionally healthy person or a mature adult is someone who can acknowledge these feelings, feel them, and still act appropriately. So, if you're feeling like you're just so angry, that's okay to feel that way. I don't know who you could be angry at, but if you're angry, that's okay, as long as you don't really act on it. Another thing that's very important is for you to label your emotions. Sometimes people have absolutely no idea what they're feeling. They could just say, I'm feeling anxious. Well, what does that mean? If you dive deeper, you might be able to figure out a nuance, what that anxiety feeling and nuance and recognition of what's behind the anxiety. And that also will reduce your anxiety. So as we've discussed and we've talked about, you could be feeling isolated or lonely, insecure, embarrassed, overwhelmed, inadequate, helpless, discouraged, rejected, afraid, isolated, and ashamed. All of these are normal feelings. It's okay to acknowledge them. Putting a name to your emotion takes a lot of the sting out of them. A study found that labeling feelings reduces the intensity of them. So acknowledge rather than fight your feelings, and that can help you move on. When you were preparing to shelter in place, what did you do? Did you feel anxious or did you feel more in control? Please join us in answering and let's discuss. What did it feel like as you were preparing for the pandemic, when you were going shopping, when you were figuring out your strategy for the next month or 2 months, or some of us planned for a year, some of us planned for 1 week. So what did preparing, did it help you or did it make you more anxious? Jessica, I can't hear you.
Stuff while you're talking. Yeah, what did that feel like? Were you able to prepare? We have friends in New Zealand, and they got a text alert that said wherever you are right now is where you're sheltering in place. And so some people didn't get a chance to prepare. But did you have a chance to prepare for staying home? Did you kind of get a heads up and have an opportunity to go gather things? Kelly said that it seemed like maybe that caused her to feel anxious because then she was worried she would need something she didn't have and didn't feel prepared. Anyone else, did any of you go out and do a whole bunch of grocery shopping or get items? Stephanie said once she was prepared, she felt better. second for everybody to give a chance. Okay, so you can, if, Kara, just let me know if anybody says it makes another comment. But you know what we want to shift to is kind of, do you feel more in control when you're able to do you feel less anxiety when you're able to focus on what you can control, right? So,
Okay, Margie just added in that she felt very disappointed in the hoarders.
right. So it's like you
Yes.
get something, someone took, 200 rolls of toilet paper.
Right.
And so we all, so right, so we all kind of felt something different, right? Margie's feeling disappointed, Kelly more anxious, Stephanie's feeling better once she knew she had everything. Many times when we can minimize our worry, we're able to shift our focus. Before we were ordered to shelter in place or stay at home Nevada, I prepared our home to be homebound for about a month. I didn't know if we'd be able to leave our house if we, and so having the ability to focus on what I could control was helpful for me. And when we focus on the unknown or things we don't have control over, we can experience an increase in anxiety and an increase in dysfunction. So if we're focused on when are we going to be able to go back, when am I going to be able to see my family, you're focusing on all those what ifs, right? That's going to lead to more anxiety and more dysfunction versus, okay, I know that we have toilet paper. I know that we have soap. I know that we have food. We do have the ability to have food delivered, or we have the ability now we know we can pick up food. So now I know that I have those things. I feel better and my anxiety is reduced. And I think a lot of times we're under the false assumption that we have all kinds of control over our life, but so much of life is unknown. And this pandemic really highlights that we don't have total control over our life. And that's okay, because there are many things that we do have control over. Have any of you been able to shift your focus on what you can control? And what do you have control over today? So what are you have control over, and have you been able to do that, been able to shift your focus to what is in your realm of control? So Kelly is trying to just focus on this is an opportunity to spend time with family and focusing on her health.
What are you doing to focus on your health? Are you exercising? Are you eating differently? What have you been doing?
I know for me and my household, there you go, eating better and exercising. Yeah, I mean, and if a lot of us are eating more at home, eating home is always healthier and better for us, versus eating out. I know in my home, I have 3 children. It's pretty crazy. So this is an opportunity to slow down a little bit and to be able to exercise. Margie's keeping busy, helping others by reaching out to others is what we can do. Focus on, okay, I can touch base with this person, see how they're doing today, walking, eating too much. I've heard, what are they calling it? The
COVID-19.
No, the COVID-19. Right. So for a lot of us, some of us might be eating more. I think we're going to talk about a little bit that next session on the physical manifestations of anxiety. We're going to touch a little bit on that. Vicky's sewing, talking to family, walking, watching Hallmark movies. Stephanie serving others. There are a lot of people now, making masks. If you have a lot of material and you're crafty and know how to sew,
or just donating the material.
Yeah, or just donating material.
A lot of people are doing that.
Yeah.
I know of a lot of people who are cleaning closets and getting prepared to do drop-offs or even doing
looking at projects.
Yes.
And I really like you guys. You guys are so kind and focusing on helping others. I really like that. I like that you guys are putting that out there and focusing on, right, if we're feeling a little out of control, what can we do to help others? And that's where, are you spiraling out of control? I call them, the what ifs. Okay. Are you allowing, or over this period, have your worries kind of gone out of control? So we looked at what we have control over, but another strategy to reduce or manage anxiety is to learn to identify the facts. Okay. So what are some of the worries? Let's take a moment to explore your worries. Does anybody want to throw out a worry that you're experiencing related to the pandemic? And then we can kind of go over and practice how we can look for logic and facts to kind of talk back to those worries so we don't allow those to spiral out of control. Don't give me a hard one. Give me a nice, easy one.
I'm worried that I'm over 65.
Okay, so you're having a worry, and when you say worried over 65, where does that worry go to? Worst case scenario for you?
Worst case scenario is if I get it, I'll be more at risk for having a more difficult case because of my increased age.
So the increased age, and we'll get to Vicky's in a second. So let's process through Kira. So what I like when I say that you need to balance it with logic or facts, I like to think about it like you're going to the court when you're going to a judge and you have to give facts. Okay. So for this particular one, I'm going to say Kira's is a little difficult because there is a fact out there that you are more at risk, right? You are more at risk. And so if we were going to look at some facts, have you seen anybody have you gone and seen anybody that is not social distancing?
It's very hard to tell. Most people are, but sometimes people go to a supermarket. Sometimes people go out. I'm not.
Right. Right. So for you personally, right, we can look at the facts. Okay, I'm not going out. I'm not exposing myself to other people. Also, we can look at recovery rate. I think I heard, I don't know if it's just Nevada or the United States, the recovery rate is 62%. There have been people in their 90s who have recovered, right? So we want to list out some facts and say, okay, well, I don't know anybody here locally that's been exposed to COVID. I'm not going and seeing anybody, and kind of just listing out the recovery rate, 62%. You're a healthy individual, right? The only thing is that your age that puts you at risk, right?
Yeah.
So you just have one, and then they're
overly significant.
Yeah. And so those are examples of listing out the facts there. And if we look at, for Vicky is saying what will be normal going forward, worried about, are we going to continue social distancing? We're going to continue wearing masks. And again, I go to, okay, so we want to list out facts. So let's look, there are countries that we can get an idea of some facts or what is happening with other countries. And we also kind of want to look at what's worst case scenario as well. So we know other countries who have had it, who have, are being allowed out, right? So we do know that the countries that, we're on the earlier end of the spectrum here in the United States as far as our experience with COVID-19. So we can look at other countries who began staying at home earlier than us. We can look at China, see what they're doing, and that can give us an idea on the facts that are happening. So we can know, number one, we will be able to go out in public. We do know that people who are going out are wearing more masks. So we do have that. And then again, with that worry, what's kind of worst case scenario with that? And then I guess I would say the worst case scenario would be that we have to stay further from people than we were before. So less people are going to be able to go into places and we would have to wear a mask. And that's kind of worst case scenario there. Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry. And then, also we're used to giving people hugs when we say hello or kisses. We just might have to change that. But eventually we hope that, Margie asks, is this going to last forever? I think that's a concern. What is our life going to be like in 6 months? And I think also two of the other worries that we have stated is about our finances. What's going to happen financially? And if you take and
go ahead.
If you want me to go? I'm not an economist, but I do follow the news and I do follow financial advisors, and almost to a one, they say this is not a depression that's caused by economic factors. It's a depression caused or a recession caused by a particular pandemic. And I think most people are forecasting that third or fourth quarter of this year will return somewhat to normal. There will be a bump up. But I don't know. Okay, I don't know the impact on that, how that's going to have, say, for Stephanie, about, how what you're doing, losing clients. I don't know what type of work you do, but it's very possible that you might lose some. And then we have to be inventive about how we can go about it. But how do you build your business in the first place?
Right. That's what I would say. I would say we could look back a little bit and say, I know that the way that, if you look at the history, I think there's been at least 8 pandemics, right, in the history of the United States. And I understand that the extent of this, because of how contagious this is and how rapidly it's spreading, it's a little bit different. But we can look at, we've had pandemics before. They've come, they're still floating around. This is from the coronavirus. The coronavirus was out there, I believe it was SARS is a coronavirus, and that's still floating around. So there are always going to be viruses. We've had pandemics in the past. We're going to have more pandemics in the future, and that's kind of the way that is. So that's we can tell ourselves the facts. As this happened before, we've gotten through it before. We're going to get through it again. And like Kara said, with finances, this is a financial crisis because people are not allowed to work. It's not a financial crisis because there are no jobs. And so, for Stephanie, with that worry, we are getting, there's government supplement checks coming in that can kind of help float you for now. We can also kind of look at, like Kara said, how'd you build your business before? There was one time where you had 0 clients and you're able to kind of build it back up, and we can kind of look back again and say, okay, I was able to do this before. I know I'll be able to do it again. And I'm hoping I'm helping Margie with those 2 fears, like, will it last forever? Hopefully it was able to kind of answer that by looking at the facts on, we've always had viruses floating around. I don't know if you can completely squash any virus, but it can become much more manageable. And when we look at the facts, again, we're looking at the facts, what can we do to manage it for ourselves? Okay, well, we can continue to socially distance for as long as we want. We can continue to wear masks. There are people in Las Vegas that have always worn masks. I've lived here 11 years. I see people who wear masks on their walk, who wear masks at the store. So that's something you can choose to do if that's a fear of yours, to continue to look at protecting yourself, washing your hands, being careful where you go, and wearing a mask. So that is kind of looking at the facts of what you can do, but also shifting your focus on what you can control during this pandemic. Let me summarize. So are there any, and so when you look at the facts, you're able to kind of pull back so you can recognize your own worry. And a lot of times what I tell people is, maybe if we're having a hard time getting out of the worry, what would you do to tell your best friend? What would you tell your partner? What would you tell someone in your family who called you and said, I'm really worried, and they're, really upset? What would you tell your friend? If you could pull back, or if you could look in 5 years from now, will I feel the same way about this? And kind of asking yourself those questions. When you list the facts, you find that sometimes your worry is just that it's a worry, right? And it's not sometimes based on reality. And kind of look to see whether it's based on facts. And again, then you can shift your focus back to what you have control over.
And I was just thinking, for those of you who suffer anxiety at different points in your life, if you look back, you had the anxiety, and after a certain amount of time, it dissipates. And that too will happen with this over time. As they develop a vaccine, as we really get definitive information of how other countries are handling it, we will be able to do the best that we can in the United States. So hopefully this is not going to last forever. So we'll have to go from there. So now, I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to go back to techniques to reduce your anxiety. Specifically, how many of you are engaged in a daily routine you think that you have a nice structure to your day? And I don't necessarily mean that your structure or your routine is that you sleep until 11, get up, make yourself lunch, go sit in front of a TV and watch a movie or whatever, and then maybe take a nap, and that's your day. Any of you thinking that you're participating in a routine that's really good for you? And explain it a little. For myself, I get up early in the morning, I do some paperwork, I read the paper, I do a crossword puzzle. That's how I start my day.
I'm sleeping in a little bit more than normal because normally I'm up at 5:45 to get the kids ready for school. So sleeping in until 6:37. And then I think it's important, I make my children, we get dressed. I think it's important to get dressed, have breakfast, and kind of start your day with a normal routine. And then we have more of a structure for us because we have to engage in homeschool, and I am doing sessions. But
Okay, so what have you been doing? I get myself up and get dressed for the day. That's the perfect start. What else are you doing during the day that might be different from the routine or the schedule you had before? What are you feeling all the time? I know I don't know what to do, not going getting a haircut, or for that matter, hair color. How are you filling those other hours that you used?
so Vicky says she's working from home. Both her and her husband are working from home, or her and her spouse working from home. They're walking 3 times a day and preparing meals to fill the time.
That's wonderful. I mean, that's what we have to be doing.
Stephanie says she has a toddler, so she tries to keep a routine for her, make the beds, get ready, do some activities.
Okay, so I think you all have done what we recommend.
Yeah, Margie's exercising.
Margie, I don't know if everybody can read this. She calls her 90-year-old stepmom 2 times a day and so happy when she hangs up. But you are reaching out. So that's
right.
wonderful. And you're being very, very helpful. So, the next part of this is we talk about is structure. Maintaining structure is critical. It is the best psychological medicine for the external chaos that the coronavirus is causing. Preferably, and I think we touched on a lot of it, you're waking up at the same time every day. Not necessarily what it was before, but you're waking up at the same time of day. You're sleeping regularly, and you're eating the first 3, and then eating 3 meals a day, which will be your first anchors. And then you have to prioritize your responsibility to the activities that are critical, to the activities that are important, and those that are optional. So who's working? She and her husband are working. So you have to fit that in. I'm sorry, I can't find it right now. Want to help me out, Jess? I'm still working. Oh, yes, Vicky, still working from home. So you have to work. So that's one of your critical things that you have to fit into your schedule. So you really want to create a schedule, and it's not going to be followed 100%. It's just going to give you some guidelines to remind you that you really have to keep yourself organized. And, if you say, you started out every night, you really need to sit down and figure out what you're going to do the next day. Identify what you can do each hour. Now, that might be a little rigid, but if you can the first thing I'm going to do is do my work from home. The second thing I'm going to do is take a break and go for a walk. If you can plan this out, and then you can all clean the house. I'm not sure how many of us want to do that. But you also have to incorporate healthy activities, which it appears that most of you are doing walking. One of the first tools, I'm going to give you a little background why structure is so important. And it really goes back to when we were infants. Structure, when a baby is born, they cannot tell the difference between themselves and their parents for the first 3 months of life. They just don't know it. And turning it around about 3 months of life, babies begin to recognize that their parent is someone different. This is internally and psychologically. They begin to realize that their parent is different than they. And that can be very, very, very scary for them and make their world chaotic. So what parents naturally do, or hopefully naturally do, is they create a schedule. So the baby knows that as chaotic as they think it could be, they can have a trust and they can have structure. Structure reduces anxiety. Put somebody who's has no structure and their life becomes chaotic. And we bring that from infancy to adulthood. So it's rooted with us. So how many of you, I'm going to switch topics here a little bit. How many of you are glued to the news or following the outbreak on a daily basis? And has that changed from when the pandemic started? How are you dealing with media right now? Well, so far nobody's popped up and said they're watching it.
Vicky says she's watching it less. Kelly says she reads the news every day, and it was really changing fast early on. And Margie said she's had to cut back a little bit and control herself with her exposure to the news.
Right. Well, so one of the things that we recommend is limit your exposure to media. And I will tell you that watching media and too much will raise your anxiety. And I think this is logical, but after you stop watching something that's been disturbing, it will keep your anxiety level raised for a much longer period of time. So you can imagine what's happening looking at death tolls and how many have been in my community, and are we leveling out? Are we flattening the curve? If you look at that all the time, you will be anxious. So while it's important to follow things perhaps on a day-to-day basis, as Margie said, she's watching less and she's cutting back and controlling herself, because I know so many of us want to know what's happening in the latest moment. But perhaps once in the morning, once in either late afternoon or early evening, don't do it right before you go to sleep, because then those people who are having nightmares are going to have them back again. And choose what media you consume carefully. And that's hard to do today, because I think there are very many, so many media outlets that are sensationalizing what's going on. A study was done between Australia and Sweden. Sweden has a tendency to just state the facts. Australia talks about missteps or what could happen. And when they were starting to look at anxiety levels, they found that the people from Sweden were much less anxious. So look for media that reports, I don't know where you're going to find it, concrete, healthy, and gives you hints on healthy activities that you can take, rather than ones that report on all the things going wrong. Make you feel better, and it could motivate you to take more positive action. So now I think we've seen from all of you that almost all of you, I think, are incorporating exercise into your routine. And it seems like most people are taking walks, and that's very important. And know how you feel invigorated after that, and your anxiety level probably will be a little less. But one thing they've also found out is that incorporating strengthening exercises not only strengthens your muscles, but it also lessens your anxiety and strengthens positivity. So I think strength training is also important to add. So if you have some dumbbells, use them. If you have some bands, use them. If you have some cans of soup that you haven't had because of the pandemic yet, use those. It'll increase not only your physical muscles, but your mental muscles. Jessica?
Yeah, and I think it looks like anecdotally, you guys all kind of noticed that the increased anxiety from exposure to news, and it seems like all of you guys kind of realized, oh my gosh, I'm reading every hour, and you guys have pulled yourself back, right? What we kind of look at is, are you currently engaging in activities that bring you joy? What are some of the things that you are doing to pass the time? I know someone talked about sewing, and you talked about walking. Kelly talked about a shift in her health, but are any of you doing something now that, or are there activities that you might be interested in trying? And what I think about it is, I think about it like, okay, Margie says her dog brings her lots of joy. And I like to think about it, the analogy of filling your cup, right? So you need for you to feel happy, healthy, and well, right? Margie says puzzles, board games are therapeutic. all of those things that Margie's talking about are things that fill her cup, right? And when she engages in those things that bring her joy and fill her cup, then she has the energy to be able to pour out and help those people in her life, right? To help her stepmom, to help all those people that rely on her. And so it's important that we're engaging in activities that help us feel great. This is an opportunity, right? It's like you're a detective, you know? So if you look and you're like, oh, you know, Tuesday was terrible for me, but I was feeling so great on Monday. You know, it's an opportunity to be a detective and say, well, what did I do on Monday that I didn't do on Tuesday? Oh, you know what? I had breakfast on Monday. And on Monday, I called my sister and I also, you know, I started putting together a puzzle. And on Tuesday, I slept in late and didn't get a chance to get to the puzzle, right? So it's like kind of looking at what's that recipe for success for you? What works that you're engaging in that has you feeling really good? And I think that we can look at this being at home as an opportunity to live slower, like to live a bit simpler and to slow things down. And so maybe there are some opportunities for, you know, not to add to your stress and anxiety, not like a giant project, you know, but like Kara had talked about, maybe to clean out your closet or to organize some things that you've been looking at. Or maybe it's an opportunity to, you know, Kelly said, focus on her health. You have a little bit more time. Maybe you're walking a little bit more. Maybe there are some things that you've wanted to get to, maybe a hobby, maybe you enjoy crocheting, sewing, and this is an opportunity for you to be able to engage in those things. So kind of looking at, you know, activities that bring you joy. So if you are, because you think you should clean out the garage and you need to do all of these things because now you have time, but when you're doing that, you don't enjoy it and you're feeling resentful and you're hating it, then don't do it. You know, do something that feels good and brings you joy.
And this isn't the time to set up expectations. You know, if you want to learn something new and it would be exciting for you to learn a new language, great. But don't start off and saying, that's what I should do, and then be disappointed if you don't. I, for one, used to love to do the daily crossword puzzle. I haven't had time to do that for years. I started doing it again, and I am feeling stupid because I don't remember a lot, but I love it. I mean, that's almost the highlight of my morning because I'm doing something that I really, really love. Am I going to continue it when I can get out and get back to my schedule? I'm not sure, but it's certainly taken a half hour, 45 minutes of my day. I don't complete them, to really enjoy them. And I think you have to think of something that's going to make you happy. And so I think we're almost about up. Look at this, we timed it perfectly.
Yes.
But next, so next week, we're really going to be discussing managing the physical manifestations of anxiety. But before we end today, I would like to teach you a very simple breathing technique that will help you and to calm your anxiety. And the rationale behind it is that you can't calm your body down by saying, oh, I think I need to be calm. Your body has to learn what to do to be calm. And if you do breathing exercises or meditation or yoga, you're training your body not only to be less anxious on a regular basis, but when anxiety hits, to be able to handle it and work through it a little more easily. So the technique I'm going to teach you is probably one of the oldest around, and it's just plain simple breathing. And if you do this 5 or 10 minutes a day, every day, when you then need to pull upon it to help calm yourself down, your body will know what it's supposed to do and will start the physiological process of relaxing you and making you less anxious. So if we could all sit in our chairs comfortably, and you're going to take a deep breath in, basically to the count of 5, but it doesn't have to be exact. Breathe in through your nose and hold it for 5 seconds. And then after the 5 seconds, breathe out through your mouth. Take a minute, a second or two. When you breathe in, you want to feel your belly or above your diaphragm. And you want to make sure when you're breathing in, your diaphragm pushes out and expands. So take a breath. hold it for 5. And when I hold it for 5, in my mind, I say relax. So you can let it out because I'm talking more than 5. So take a breath in, hold it for 5. And while you're holding it, just say relax. And then as you breathe out through your mouth, it's like sink into the chair and just let your muscles relax. And when I relax and I breathe out, I say in my mind, relax. So I'm reinforcing that I want to be calm and I want to relax, supplementing what I'm doing with my body, which is the relaxation response. So let's try that again. Now, it's very easy for me to say, let's do this for 5 minutes. And I guarantee you're going to try to do it after a minute or two, and you're going to say, I'm not doing this. I promise you, if you do it religiously, 5 times a week, 7 times a week, you will reduce your anxiety. And when you come upon an anxiety-provoking situation, if you just take the time to do this, it will help. So, Jessica?
I just want to thank you so much, Karen. Thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to next week so that we can continue exploring how to manage our anxiety during the COVID-19 pandemic. This session has been recorded, so we will be sending out an email in case you missed anything to review it. I'm also putting here Kara and I's email addresses in case you have any questions for us or would like to connect with either one of us. If you found this beneficial, which I hope you did, thank you so much for participating and interacting with us. You are already signed up for next week. And if you want to share with anybody in your network that you find might benefit it, we'd really appreciate it. And again, look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good week. Stay safe.